Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 27, Text 21. Shri Bhagwan Vacha Animita Nimitena Swadharmena Malatmana Tivraya Mai Bhaktya Cha Shruta Samratya Chiram. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one can get liberation by seriously discharging devotional service unto me, and thereby hearing for a long time about me or from me. By thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction, and one will be freed from the contamination of matter. So because yesterday Devahuti was telling him that, oh, how do we understand that the spirit and matter is so combined? How do we understand that the spirit can live freely apart from matter? So the Supreme Lord is telling her that by hearing about me or from me for a long time. Hearing about me or from me for a long time. Sridhar Swami comments in this connection that by association with material nature alone, one does not become conditioned. Conditional life begins only after one is infected by the modes of material nature. If someone is in contact with the police department, that does not mean that he's a criminal. As long as one does not commit criminal acts, even though there is a police department, he's not punished. Similarly, the liberated soul is not affected, although he is in material nature. So Prabhupada is giving a very nice analogy for us to explain to us that just because someone is working in the police department or is in contact with the police department doesn't make him a criminal. So there may be a liberated person in the material world, in the material body, but he is not affected by the modes of material nature. So as long as one is not affected by the modes of material nature, even though he's in the material world, he's in the material body, he is liberated. Even the Supreme Personality of Godhead is supposed to be in association with material nature when he descends, but he is not affected. One has to act in such a way that in spite of being in the material nature, he is not affected by contamination. Although the lotus flower is in association with water, it does not mix with the water. That is how one has to live, as described here by the Personality of Godhead Kapila Dev. Animita nimitena swadharmena malatmana. Again, the point is being stressed, being in this world, but not of this world. That even the Supreme Lord, he comes into the material realm, into the material atmosphere, but he's not affected by the modes of material nature. So similarly, a liberated person, he is in this material world, but he's not affected by the modes. One can be liberated from all adverse circumstances. How? Simply by seriously engaging in devotional service. So liberation can easily be gotten simply by seriously engaging in devotional service. How this devotional service develops and becomes mature is explained here. In the beginning, one has to perform his prescribed duties with a clean mind. Clean consciousness means Krishna consciousness. One has to perform his prescribed duties in Krishna consciousness. There is no necessity of changing one's prescribed duties. One simply has to act in Krishna consciousness. In discharging Krishna conscious duties, one should determine whether by his professional or occupational duties, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is satisfied. So as Lord Caitanya said in very clear and simple terms, simple way, that we do not need to change our position. Wherever we are, whoever we are, we do our duty and we begin hearing and chanting, doing our duty for the pleasure of Krishna. So in another place in Bhagavatam, it is said, Svanushthitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. Everyone has some prescribed duties to perform, but the perfection of such duties will be reached only if the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari is satisfied by such actions. For example, Arjuna's prescribed duty was to fight, and the perfection of his fighting was tested by the satisfaction of Krishna. Krishna wanted him to fight, and when he fought for the satisfaction of the Lord, that was the perfection of his professional devotional duties. On the other hand, when contrary to the wish of Krishna, he was not willing to fight, that was imperfect. So, Samsiddhir Haritoshanam, Bhagavatam is saying, Swanushtishtasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam, that we engage in our duties for the perfection or for the satisfaction of Lord Krishna. And that is how we are perfectly performing our duty. That is the perfection of performing our duty for the satisfaction of Krishna. If one wants to perfect his life, he should discharge his prescribed duties for the satisfaction of Krishna. One must act in Krishna consciousness, for such action will never produce any reaction. Animita nimitena. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Yagnarthat karmano anyatra. All activities should be performed simply for yajna or the satisfaction of Vishnu. So if we do anything and everything for the satisfaction of Krishna, we are not going to get any results. We won't get any karma for it. Krishna is saying, you surrender to me and I will save you from unselful reactions. We were hearing that sometimes we may unknowingly cause some sinful activities, but because one has surrendered to Krishna, they will not get the result. Anything done otherwise without the satisfaction of Vishnu or Yajna produces bondage. So here it is also prescribed by Kapila Muni that one can transcend material entanglement by acting in Krishna consciousness, which means seriously engaging in devotional service. So we are very attached. We say, why shall I work for the satisfaction of Krishna? We might say that. We might say, I want to work for my own satisfaction. Why should I work for the satisfaction of Krishna? But what happens then? We get attached to the results. Then we are waiting for the results. And because of that, we are going to take future lives to be able to enjoy or suffer that results. But if we say, okay, it's for the pleasure of Krishna, I have nothing to do with the result. It's my duty just to act. And so then, because the attachment is not to the result, we are not getting any karma for it. So we do not need to take any future lives to suffer or to enjoy the fruits of the activity. Activity we have to perform. We can't just do nothing. And so that's why Krishna is saying, you act, but you act for my pleasure. So how can this serious devotional service, how can we develop it? It can develop by hearing for long periods of time. When regularly hearing about the Lord or from the Lord, we can come to the platform of serious devotional service. Chanting and hearing is the beginning of the process of devotional service. One should associate with devotees and hear from them about the Lord's transcendental appearance, activities, disappearance, instructions, etc. There are two kinds of Shruti or scripture. One is spoken by the Lord and the other is spoken about the Lord and his devotees. So one is spoken by the Lord and the other is spoken about the Lord by his devotees. Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord and Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken about the Lord. About the Lord from the devotees. One must hear these scriptures repeatedly from reliable sources in order to become fixed in serious devotional service. So here Kapila Muni is saying that we can get the liberation, that one can get liberation, how? By seriously discharging devotional service. And so he's saying, how can we come to the point of seriously discharging devotional service? By hearing for a long time. From me or about me. So means hearing from a long time, from the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. But we need to hear from reliable sources. And then what's the result of this repeated hearing? That one will come to seriously discharge devotional service. When one seriously discharges devotional service, one gets liberated. So here the clear path of liberation is being shown to us. Through engagement in such devotional service, one becomes freed from the contamination of Maya. So what happens that when one is engaged in devotional service, one gets free from this attachment of Maya. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam that hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead cleanses the heart of all contamination caused by the influence of the three modes of material nature. So just simply by hearing about the Lord, by hearing about the Lord from Srimad Bhagavatam, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost disappears. By continuous regular hearing, the effects of the contamination of lust and greed to enjoy or lord it over material nature diminish. And when lust and greed diminish, one then becomes situated in the mode of goodness. So by regularly hearing Bhagavatam, what happens is the lust and greed in our heart, it gradually goes away. It will go away. When it will go away, one will come to the point of goodness. Then one will come to the point of pure goodness, transcending even material goodness. This is the stage of Brahman realization or spiritual realization. In this way, one becomes fixed on the transcendental platform. So once there is no passion, ignorance, or even material goodness, we are not under these modes, means we are on the Brahman platform. And we are understood that I'm not the body. We have no attachment to the body then. Then we have understood that we are part and parcel of God. In this way, one becomes fixed on the transcendental platform. Remaining fixed on the transcendental platform is liberation from material entanglement. So once one reaches this platform, this is liberated platform. And then what does the devotee do on the liberated platform? Not that he says, okay, now I'm liberated, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now. No, he continues hearing and chanting. He continues. Krishna says that pure devotional service begins from the liberated platform, from the platform of the Brahman. So he continues hearing and chanting. So we can see that how by regularly hearing and chanting for a long time, repeatedly hearing and chanting, that we can be fixed in our true position, come to our original position. Is that all right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there are any questions or comments on this.
It's clear. As we were talking the other day about the duties that we have to perform our duty, right?
Yeah. We have to perform our duty. Yes, Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, that we have to perform. So then he says, you perform it for my pleasure, so that you do not get the reactions for it. So then we'll read on. Jnanena drishta tatvena vairagena baliyasa tapo yuktena yogena tivrena atma samadhina. This devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be performed blindly due to material emotion or mental concoction. So it's not that we just think of something and we say, okay, this is devotional service. It's not on the mental platform. Or it's not, oh, I feel like doing, oh, I feel, oh, I think it's this way. No. It is specifically mentioned here that one has to perform devotional service in full knowledge by visualizing the absolute truth. We can understand about the absolute truth by evolving transcendental knowledge, and the result of such transcendental knowledge will be manifested by renunciation. So we have to perform devotional service under guidance, and then from the reliable sources, as we just read in the earlier verse. And so then the more we hear about the Lord, the more we are hearing about the absolute truth, the more we are getting knowledge. And then the result of this knowledge is going to be that the more we will be detached from the material world. That renunciation is not temporary or artificial, but is very strong. So, sometimes we can see when the renunciation is artificial, bhog tyag, that's on the mental platform. Oh, I want to eat this. Oh, but I've eaten enough of it, so I don't want it anymore. But again, after a few days, yes, I want to eat it. So that is temporary, artificial. But the renunciation which we get after repeatedly performing devotional service, that is not artificial. Because the seeds of material desire are being burnt in the heart by engaging in devotional service. The seed of material desire can be burnt only by engaging in devotional service. And then that's what leads to renunciation. It is said that development of Krishna consciousness is exhibited by proportionate material detachment or vairagya. If one does not separate himself from material enjoyment, it is to be understood that he is not advancing in Krishna consciousness. Renunciation in Krishna consciousness is so strong that it cannot be deviated by any attractive illusion. So one who is really advancing in Krishna consciousness, then because he's not doing it artificially. When something is artificial, when somebody is just making a show of it, then it's going to be, it's not going to be like it's going to be temporary. But because the pure devotee, he's Krishna conscious, so he's not faking his renunciation. He's actually feeling he's actually not feeling the attraction to the material nature. One has to perform devotional service in full tapasya austerity. One should fast on the 2 Ekadashi days, which fall on the 11th day of the waxing and waning moon, and on the birthdays of Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what is austerity in devotion in Krishna consciousness? Austerity in Krishna consciousness is to observe the fasting on Ekadashi days, fasting on Janmashtami, on Gaur Purnima, on Ram Navami, on appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadev. So these are performing austerities. There are many such fasting days. Yogena means by controlling the senses and mind. Yoga Indriya Samyamaha. Yogena implies that one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able, by development of knowledge, to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self. So the devotee, he is hearing about the Lord. So the more he's hearing about the Lord from Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, the more he's also able to understand his own position. He's able to understand who is God and what is my relationship with God. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. So this is the devotional service. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So we can see that devotional service is not going to bring us to an artificial platform of renunciation. It brings us truly to the platform of renunciation. Why? Because one can understand who am I, who is God, and what's my relationship with him. Yeah? So it's based on truth. And because it's based on truth, so then it's fixed. It's not temporary. Is that okay? So the austerity, we do not need to make up things and try to do unnecessary austerity. We don't need to do unnecessary austerity. The simple austerity we can do is fasting on the Ekadashi days and fasting on appearance days of Lord Vishnu, of Lord Krishna. Yeah, controlling the mind and senses. How? By continuously hearing about the Lord. Continuously hearing about the Lord. So as Prabhupada would say that when we go in front of the sun, automatically we can see everything, we can see ourselves, and we can see everything around us clearly. So the more we hear about God, the more we are trying to understand the absolute truth, the more things will become clearer to us, and more we will be able to understand our position also. As we read yesterday, that Krishna, Surya Saman, Maya Haya Andakar. Jaha Krishna, taha nahi Mayara Adhikar. That where there is Krishna, where is the son of Krishna, there is no ignorance of darkness. So that again confirms this point that we are speaking of right now. Is that okay? Did anyone want to add anything or comment to what we have been reading? This is like the most important part of the third canto, of the entire pastime of Kardama Muni, Devahuti, Lord Kapila Dev. This is Kapila Shiksha.
So like we have to, this is what it's trying to say, is that we have to be fixed on the path and not artificially, right? Not artificially. We don't have to do anything artificially. We just have to keep on hearing and chanting. That is again the importance have been shown here of hearing and chanting.
Yes.
That we have to keep on hearing and chanting.
Yes.
So that slowly by it we will realize our relation, our position, and then in relation to the Krishna. We'll understand the self and in relation. So no matter what, we still have to keep on hearing and chanting, hearing and chanting.
That's right. Yes, thank you. Yes.
One question.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't know whether it sounds crazy. I mean, if a person is a butcher, that's his living. That's what he does, right? You know, he has to sell meat. That's been going on in his family, you know. So then that's his duty. So what does he do? Like, can he carries on this work with this?
So what happens is, once a butcher really comes to Krishna consciousness, hearing and chanting, gradually he will give up that profession. And he will take up another one. Because you see, we have to, Krishna says that our duty is born out of our nature. Varna and ashram is based on our nature, right? It's not based on birth. So once he actually takes up devotional service, he will automatically want to give it up and take up another profession. He will take up another profession.
Right. That's what even came in my thing. I felt that maybe, you know, by reading, he will automatically, right?
Yeah.
Bend and leave that profession.
Yeah.
He can do something.
Yeah. You know, then he will choose something else by his nature, because his nature will change. He will give up that gross ignorance. He will be rising to the mode of goodness. Automatically, then he will choose a profession which is suitable for that then.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so we should give everyone an opportunity to hear and chant. You know, that again brings out the importance of, you know, that we should encourage everyone to hear and chant. Nice question. So we'll stop here for today. Thank you so much for listening and joining in. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.